for, does anybody have notes from the day or whatever? So I'm going to make my own. So do you guys all have access to the PDF right now? It's in the chat.
Oh,
Do you have it?
I see it here.
I gotta put my education to something. I can make documents for you guys. Just kidding. But actually not, because I love making documents and I feel like people don't want them. But then last year everybody asked for them. Okay, so I am kind of laughing about my education, but not totally. Like people ask me all the time, how come I'm good at this right off the bat? Well, I do think one reason I'm good right off the bat is because I studied the ancient Greek world. That's what my PhD is in Plato and Socrates. So that's what I wanted to start with today because that's to me the heart of questioning is not from ACH, it's not from hypnosis, it's historical. Like, this is not something new. And the more we get down with that, I think the more convincing you become and the more steeped in, reality you become. Just gonna change my view here. So I think it's important to know the history, even on a sales call, even on the discovery call. It doesn't sound so much like, oh, I learned this thing 2 weeks ago on a 3 day whatever, which is kind of what happened, but not really. That's just a summary of something that's happened for decades, centuries, and actually thousands of years. So here's the like long and short of it, and then we'll look at it in terms of ACH. So if you look at just page one of the little handout, I'm just talking about the history of questioning. So I said Plato used questions not to teach answers, but to reveal ignorance, to expose assumptions, to reorganize thinking. Through dialogue and carefully sequenced questions, he led the mind into contradiction, uncertainty, and then insight. So what did this become was the Socratic method, which Plato then recorded. And the reason it was effective and the reason the dialogues are so engaging and why I ended up getting a freaking, you know, doctorate in it is because I had that same attraction as I have to ACH, which is it's so fun and so engaging to get into these questions. The Socratic type are more like, what is virtue? So Socrates will ask a client or a interlocutor or someone he meets in the street, what is virtue? And then the interlocutor starts to answer, oh, virtue is what I learned, from my religious teacher. And then he says, but what about this? And what about that? And it all comes down to the same stuff that we do, which is contradiction, objection. What about these two realities that don't agree with each other? And so eventually the interlocutor is left flabbergasted. And that's how every dialogue, of which there are 39 spanning 2,000 pages, ends with that same moment where the interlocutor is like, what the hell? I have no idea what virtue is, and I have no idea what you just did to me either. And I don't even know what we were talking about, and I don't even know how it is that I lost track of the one thing I came to ask you about. And this was called the stingray effect. Why is it the stingray effect? Because it's like the stingray stings you, and now you're numb. So when I encountered ACH, I fell in love instantly because I was like, I know that already. That's the Socratic method that I have broken my ass trying to learn classical Greek to read in the original. And now here is something we can do in the modern day that's a correlate. So to me, actually, conversational hypnosis is another way to look at it is just philosophical conversation. And the reason I'm giving you that as a like preview or a precursor to, the actual coaching is because I think it's a lot less weird than we make it out to be. Like everybody talks about it like it's some, magical power you have to get or you have to get like in some kind of certain mind frame. Like, not really. It's a philosophical conversation. The more hypnotic you can get about it, which by the way, I'm teaching level 3 next month, and I am going to add a big layer of hypnosis over it. So I'm not going to say, okay, just sit in your questions, because it's true that eventually that gets too long-winded. So there is a hypnosis angle, but also you don't need to worry about it so much because philosophical questioning is eons old and it doesn't take any particular genius or technique. It takes understanding what's the point of it. So that's what my little chart that I'm gonna now take you through is about. So, like, what is the technique? So, in modern conversational hypnosis, the same principles apply. Questions don't persuade. The point of the question is not to get the answer. We forget that all the time, right? But that's not what it's for. They create the conditions where the truth becomes unavoidable. Okay. And that's what Socrates was so good at, was so good at being like, well, the truth is right here in front of me because you didn't answer this, you didn't answer that, and that was wrong, and that was wrong. So it's got to be the thing that's left. And isn't that what an ACH session is? Is like, let's tear this down, let's take this down, let's see what's left. Okay, well, that's the truth of what you are. Take it or leave it. 99% of the time, when people see, well, I could stay the same in my problem and be whatever X problems I have, or here's my other option, which got narrowed down in this conversation to the truth, then they just weigh these two and they always come out on this one because why did they pay you to do this one? So, as long as we get down to, well, what's the real truth of in front of us, our way into that, our approach into that is not that important. You could do that thousands of different ways. Now, of course, I'm interested in how you're going to do it the most easy on yourself, the most easy on the client, and the fastest. Which, by the way, I want to interrupt myself. You guys know I like to do my anecdotes. I'll interrupt myself right now and tell you I am so obsessed with speed that on my very last session, which was yesterday, I had a discovery call today, but it was yesterday, the client stopped me after like maybe 12 minutes and she was like, why is this going so fast? And it was a big learning moment for me because I lost track of how fast it's going in my own head. And I was glad she called me out and it hurt my feelings a little because I was like, oh, I totally lost track of her because I'm thinking about my method and my approach. So just a little anecdote about like it doesn't always go the way you want, and it's okay to make a mistake and it's okay to be self-referential. Yes, Kelly? You don't have to raise your hand, you can just talk.
Oh, okay. Uh, I'm just wondering, like, in terms of speed,
Yes.
um, is there like a way to prime for that?
Yes, definitely.
Great.
So what is it? I mean, I'll tell you, but I'm asking you first, and maybe the girls know, the ladies know. Not girls, women. What's the way
Um,
to prime for speed, or do you want to answer? Go, Kelly.
I'll take a shot, and then I'd love to hear what, yeah, other folks have to say. Um,
It's a great question and very important. And actually, what was missing with that client, may I say, when I was thinking through her objection, I was thinking, oh, you know what? The way she met me was not through my social media. So she doesn't know that much about the approach. She just trusts me. And then I thought, oh, yeah, see, I didn't prime for it correctly. So you're right. But anyway, what were you going to say?
I was going to say that's probably the way you talk about what you offer. It's like it's not only this, it's not only that, but it's also fast.
Exactly.
Um, and
So
maybe
when do you say that?
you could say it during the discovery call. You could also say it like just as part of like I don't know any piece of content. Like, hi, I'm Kelly. I'm the such and such therapist, hypnosis, and
Exactly.
it's
That's
one.
why in all of the riders, it says in 3 sessions or less, because we're always advertising speed or in 2 sessions or less and without medication. And you're right. In my PDF, in my welcome email, as soon as you meet me, all over my social media, I'm always talking about it's not an endless process and I don't want you as a client forever. And so I'm always capitalizing on that. And then when they come to the discovery call, they're going to ask you, how is that possible that you're doing it in 1 session or in 2 sessions? That's your great opportunity. A lot of people get put back on their heels right there. Like, well, what if I don't do it in one or two? Well, I don't want to make it. But that's exactly your opportunity to say, yes, that's exactly what my business is. That's my product by design. Check out my testimonials. That's exactly what I'm doing here. And then give the rationale. Don't just expect them to understand why. You want to explain it. Well, I don't want to see you 500 times because if I see you 500 times, it's not working. So you want to be clear about, no, my method is it works in this moment and you will feel a great amount of change immediately. If you don't say that, why would they expect it? Why would they be looking for it? I mean, very, very important to always in the discovery call say, what's going to happen next? When I see you in the session, this is what will happen. The day after the session, this is what will happen. And at the end of the session, I do the same thing. So now you're going to feel excited and tired, and then you're going to wake up tomorrow. You're going to feel these changes. Remember to let me know. So all of that is priming for speed. That was what was missing with this one woman. She was more wanting me to like be compassionate and warm and a therapist the way she expects it. And then when I come out with what's the problem, she was like, "Why do you think there's a problem?" And I'm like, "What are we gonna have a fucking disagreement about that right now? Like, give me a break." I mean, partly I did not like her reaction also because it showed a certain amount of resistance. But we got through it, just so you know. We did get through it. It was okay. But you have to prime for it. Exactly. And prime for it in your social media. When you're making content, that's a great topic. How come it's fast? How is it different from therapy? Another thing you need to say all the time once we're talking about it is permanent, long term. Those are my three key phrases: permanent, long term, and fast or rapid. I always want people to remember that that's it. Okay, back to the sheet. Oh, wait, did I answer everything? And I mean, I also want to say, like, Kelly, you're just getting started. Melanie, you're mostly just getting started, not quite. Jody, you're not getting started, but with ACH in a way, it's a little different. So I don't think speed has to be at the top of the agenda either. It working has to be at the top of the agenda. If it takes two, three visits, who the hell cares? You think I just came out of the box like being able to do it in one visit? No, I did not. So don't obsess over that and don't stress about it. But why is it so good to be interested in it? Well, the one thing, the clients love it and it gives you a real cachet and niche, which is that was crazy. I don't know how she did that. That's really cool and very effective for long-term business. But also, I'm tired. I'm tired like everybody else. I love my work. I'm happy to be here. But like at the end of the day, I want to solve a problem in 2 hours, not 6 hours. Certainly not 12 or 18. I just don't have that kind of energy. So if I can't go fast, it's a problem for me and my business. I mean,
Well, and the reality of it is talk therapy. I have a client that I've been working with for 7 years,
exactly. Exactly.
and she solved the original problem. She just doesn't want to leave. But,
Well,
and that's great for her to stay. Like I'm making lots of money off of her. But the reality of it is every time I see her schedule a session, I'm like, oh my God.
exactly. I'll give you a very interesting, I think I told you guys this at some point, but I can never remember who I told what to. But here's a reflection of that. So now go to your little chart there, and we'll just look on the left. So the Socratic method, the method of what is virtue, what is love, what is religion, whatever they are asking there, those questions go into this philosophical kind of conversation. And the point of it is to use the question to expose the false certainty of the interlocutor. So very often they will say something like, virtue is what religious people tell me, because it's the ancient Greek world. Well, that's all they know. I mean, by the way, fundamentalist America is doing the exact same thing right now, so not much has changed. But that's the idea, right? Like, I know because my religion said so. Okay, but that's a false certainty. So if I ask you about it, you're going to find that you can't really defend it. Same thing happens in ACH. The correlate of it is we use the questions to interrupt a pattern, a stuck pattern. What is that called in hypnosis? Fractionation. It's not called fractionation in Socratic language because they didn't know that's what they were doing, but they were. The repeat question, repeat was what was creating that stingray effect. So the questions here are not meant to elicit answers. They're not meant to further the story. They're just meant to be interrupters. They have other purposes as well, which we're going to keep talking about. In the Platonic system, it leads the thinker into contradiction. In ACH, it leads the client into a destabilized thinking pattern. So they come to you in a secure thinking pattern, right? I'm an addict. I'm a Luddite. I suck at technology. That's not true. I bet you I could get you to find that link in 30 seconds, in 5 seconds. but you think you are. So you're stuck into that stable belief about yourself. So what would the point of the session be? Would be to open and shake, as Scott says, stretch the underwear so that you can put the pieces back together in a different way. So it's like a puzzle piece comes to you all complete, but the puzzle is not put together right. So you shake out all the pieces, and then the processing is the puzzle pieces coming back in. So that's what the questioning is for, to disrupt the original, um, whatever that is. In Socratic questioning, values confusion as a gateway to insight. Here, we're valuing uncertainty. In Platonic questioning, we're targeting beliefs. Here, what are we targeting? Attention, sensation, state, and subconsciousness. It's like the intellectual version of it versus the whatever spiritual auric version of it. Socratic version, allow the questioner to discover their ignorance. Hypnotic version, allow the questioner to questionee notice the loop in their own thinking or the contradiction in their own thinking. It's kind of the same thing. In the Socratic method, transformation feels self-generated. Oh, I couldn't answer that. I couldn't answer that. I must not know what virtue is. Same exact feature in ACH. The change feels self-generated, feels spontaneous. They're like, oh, where did that come from? That's the exact quality we're going for. Surprise and spontaneity. And then finally, the stingray effect comes into view when the questioner is like, fuck this, I don't know what virtue is, I gotta go, which is how it always ends. I don't know what we're talking about, I gotta get out of here. Well, guess what? That's how ours end too, where they're just like, okay, enough of that. I gotta go process what just happened. The body settles, the emotions settle, and they're like, okay, we must be done now. Same idea. So hopefully I've demystified hypnosis a little bit. That was the point of my little preview there, is just to say, no, it's a historical trope. It's could be called other things, depending on what the purpose is, what the intention is. Okay, now I have a list of things that questions do in ACH, but I'll stop there for a second. Any thoughts, comments, questions? The point of that, hopefully, is to show you that it doesn't matter exactly what the question is. It matters if you understand what questioning is for. So that's supposed to take away the pressure of, well, what should I say next? Oh, I need to come up with the right question. No, you need to view questions as a procedure, like a medical procedure, just as Socrates did. He didn't give a shit what people were saying. He was probably not even listening, as we are not half of the time. But he was interested in observing them chase their tail. Any thoughts, questions? Okay, let's look at the sheet. You will have questions as we go through this sheet. So look at page 2. We'll go back to the little quiz at the very end. We're going to have a little pop quiz at the end of all of our skills trainings now. So number 1, questions are internal by nature. That's why they're cool. What does that even mean? What does that mean? Questions are internal by nature.
That's where someone's going to go
Yeah,
to try and answer a question or to find the answer. They'll go inside somewhere.
there's nowhere else to go. Even a conscious question is somewhat internal because you have to look in your frontal lobe, which, by the way, because I'm doing my mind mold tonight, I have been studying the mind. Do you guys know how many neurons are in the gray matter of the frontal cortex? I mean, I knew this before, but for whatever reason, I forgot. It's like 16 to 18 billion, double the number of humans on Earth only in the frontal cortex of each individual. Like when we're talking about a supercomputer, we're talking about a supercomputer. Anyway, that's for tonight, but I thought you guys might want to know. Questions are internal by nature. A question is never neutral. The moment you ask it, something happens. You move attention. Attention immediately alters a person's state. So any question, even how are you, what's the weather like, is going to have some kind of effect on the interlocutor. So the point here is not gathering information. The point here is gathering internality or creating internality. So some questions create chaos and some create relief depending on how well you've mitigated that internality. So in hypnosis, becoming internal is what process? What is the name of it? I already gave it away a little bit ago. What is it called when we create that internality?
Fractionation.
Yeah, fractionation. Exactly. And what is fractionation exactly?
Disrupting
Yeah,
their pattern.
exactly. Making the internal flash happen once, twice.
Hmm.
And then as our questions get deeper and as we get more involved in the conversation, what's happening? The fractionation is fractionating, right? So it's
Mm.
like you kind of start, let's say, with, uh, apple size fractionation. This is all theoretical, of course, in my imagination. But then you fractionate a fractionation, it's like a half apple. And then you fractionate a fractionation, it's a quarter apple. I mean, it's not technically numbers like that, but that's the concept is like if you compound fractionation, what happens at the end?
You rebuild.
But compounding, yes, that's what happens once the whole thing has collapsed down. It's an interesting process, right? Because it has to do with those two things happen simultaneously in a way in our sessions. But if we're doing a deconstructed version, what's actually happening is fractionation, fractionation. So you start with this amount of your mind, then you go to fractionated part of your mind, fraction. And eventually, there's nowhere to escape to. The fractionation puts the person in the spot where their problem is, or where various strands of their problems have gathered together. So the compounding effect of fractionation is actually what's interesting. I mean, all of fractionation is interesting. But the whole thing is the tool of fractionation is the question. What we're looking for is to keep on diminishing the attention until it's really focused on the problem, which implicitly means the solution. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
Number two, questions reveal where attention is, not where content is, right? So the speed component, I think, has a lot to do with tracking the oral answer, the linguistic answer, the content answer, at the same time as you're tracking the whole experience, the attention, right? So the story is lying, basically, but it's very important because that's what's hypnotizing the client, their
Hmm.
own story. It's very interesting when you deconstruct the whole thing, right? It's like, oh, that's kind of weird. So we're using their own story to hypnotize them into letting go of their own story. So the story is not interest, right? The story is not interesting. The attention is interesting. You are listening for how they present. I love how Kelly loved that. You're listening for how someone presents their answer. And then you're using the presentation of the answer to refractionate them. So it's not interesting what they're actually saying. It's interesting where their attention is going. It's interesting what they think is interesting. The change happens at the energetic attention level, not at the narrative level. That's why if you get into the narrative, you always end up in a combative argument,
In the soup.
right? What did you say?
I said you end up in the soup.
Yeah, exactly. And you
Mhm.
also end up losing rapport, like when she called me out on the speed. It's because and I felt it too. The direction of her answers were so legit and so content based that she could feel, oh, that's not hypnosis, that's not hypnosis. So then she objected. Well, it's not my fault. It's not my fault that you don't want to give yourself away right at the start. But I do understand from the client's perspective why that makes her uncomfortable. So I thought it was legit. What is it that you pay attention to, if not the narrative? You ask a question, you don't care what the answer is exactly, except for to create more fractionation. So what do you care about?
Unconscious moments and conscious.
Exactly. What are those, Melanie?
Um, Watching them, observing them and their behavior, and also how they're responding.
Yeah. Any changes? Anything that's divergent from how they started? I mean, Melanie's really like I don't know what to call you, Reiki master or something.
Mhm.
So you were reading it, you can't even put it into words, is what I just got from your answer. You're like reading many things at the same time, right?
Mhm.
I would say I'm reading like maybe, I don't know, 100 things per observation. It's just a bunch of stuff. So you're tracking the answer on one level so that you can ask the next question. But what you're really tracking is the direction of the whole conversation, the direction of the person, their skin tone, their eyes, their voice, their cough reflex, their intonation, their speed, their hair flipping, they're taking off their sweater, they're reclining, they're sitting closer, whatever. They're mad now, they're crying, they're not paying attention, whatever it is. That's what you're reading. You're not reading the content of the answer. You're just downloading the content of the answer so that you know what to say next, so you have somewhere to go next. So again, you're using their story to hypnotize them. That's why it's so easy. So who's not hypnotized by their own life? Like that's the whole joke of being human.